It's Mom and Pop Video Shop.
Welcome to Mom and Pop Video Shop. I am Joel, of course, and I know I'm sans Tyson again, mainly because I apparently schedule all of the interviews when he's not available. And I, however, have the pleasure of being joined by a guy that, and I'll go into how I found out about you, Matt, but
Sure.
Matt Cannon, and I guess, is it Lapses? Is that what you go by?
That's my stage name. Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt is a composer, a filmmaker, and I'm going to talk to you about all kinds of stuff related to indie film. But basically, I found Matt by way of Lunch Meat VHS, the newsletter. I am on their Patreon, and I got that in the mail, and I was reading about it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to check out this guy's work. And I did. And I was like, holy crap, his work is awesome. So I wanted to have you on to discuss your various projects, ones from the past, ones you got going on now, ones you have in the future that you want to talk about. Right off the bat, so you just did a short film, a short doc, right? Called Tie Dye.
Correct.
And before we started recording, I told you I have 3 sons. They range in age. The one's literally about to turn 18. I got a 16-year-old and I got a 14-year-old. And the 2 younger ones will literally be going to the next age in less than a month because they're all like October, November, December babies. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so do you have one son, or do you have other kids?
I have one son. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this doc, if you don't mind me telling people what the basic gist of it is, or actually, or you can, it is your doc. I don't
It's honestly, it's about a mother and a son making tie-dye t-shirts. And that's really what it is.
And it's very well shot. It's very well put together. I loved, it felt like a slice of life. And I appreciate that in a good short doc. I will tell you, and hopefully this doesn't make it weird, but it actually, found myself get a little teary-eyed at one point, and I think it was because I could so see, it reminded me of like moments, you know what I mean? Of like my kids with their mom, or even with me, but like watching them work on something with her, because she was always, more about, make sure they're making their Easter eggs and make sure they're carving the pumpkin and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it goes by really quick, dude. Not to make a downer right off the bat. It goes by so fast, brother.
Well, that means a lot to me. Yeah, I mean, it's I think the relationship between like a mother and their child, it's so different than a father and a child. I mean, you're not the first person. My wife is down there cursing, actually. I'm not sure if you hear that.
But I could drop the audio at that point.
No, my son's learned some curse words. Let's just say that. But yeah, I mean, it's that relationship between a mother and a son is very different. And I mean, yeah, I made the movie because it was something really simple, and I saw kind of like a beginning, middle, end in the whole exchange of it, and so I just wanted to see what would happen and just film it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also appreciate that too. I like that sort of like, just DIY, be creative, make something, don't overthink it, just put it out there in the world. I have massive respect for that. So
absolutely.
But I thought, it's like, I don't know if I should mention that. It seems a little weird, like, hey man, I watched your short doc, just to see some of your work, and like I felt myself getting teary-eyed, and I just wanted to let you know that it affected me, so that's good.
I want people to watch it and feel some sort of emotion from it. I got nervous that it might be something where it might come out negative at the end, but I wanted it to feel this relationship, that it's just, there's something in between both people, whether it's a mother and hello kitty cat.
Yeah.
Whether it's a mother and a son, or a father and a daughter, it's just evokes a sense of just kind of nostalgia. But I mean, for me, it's like I love like Like there's like a really great documentary by the Maisel brothers, if the guys who did Grey Gardens,
Mm-hmm.
called Salesman, and it's
I see Salesman.
yeah, it was
Oh
sort of
yeah.
yeah, it was sort of inspired the kind of like the nature of the end of the movie of Salesman versus the end of this. But like going into the editing process, that's what I was more thinking about. Like I didn't want to end it negatively, but I wanted to kind of give some sort of sense of like hope at the
Yeah.
end. It wasn't just like somebody not completing what they wanted to do, but ultimately that it's not about, the end. It's about the process getting to the end.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what I took from it. It felt
Yeah,
like the point was the memory, the moment
absolutely.
that your son will have. He may
Yeah,
not even remember why. I remember being a kid, mom, and doing this thing. Do you remember that? I mean, it'll be like that.
yeah,
And it's like a capsule. It's like, and it's funny you bring up the Salesman, Doc. I literally saw that
yeah.
for the first time, like within the last 3 to 4 months.
Great.
It was great. And it's so like, to me, a lot of people would call it boring, but that's the point. It's so true to, like, it's so real. It's what
Yeah,
life is, man. It's not, there's no added artifice. It's just these guys doing
yeah.
their job.
Like cinema verte. I mean,
Yeah, very much. Very
so-
much.
Yep, yep, yeah. I just love the style, and I think the whole process. Like I have a shotgun mic, a Rode shotgun mic, that I've been using for doing other doc work, but like the activity happened so quick, and she's like, "Let's make tie-dye t-shirts," and I just went, "Is it okay if I film it?" And yeah, it was so like she didn't care, but it was also it was weird because my wife isn't used to just being
Sure.
filmed, and
Sure.
when you're doing a documentary, it's hard, like to make sure your subject is actually okay to be filmed, and that's something you do like way ahead of time on the phone or
Yeah.
having like a little meeting. This was just like, I'm gonna pick up my camera and just start shooting. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But it had this in the moment quality to it. And she did a great job because, like, there's never that sense, like, sometimes you can get a sense where people don't feel comfortable. Like, she definitely was able to keep herself in her headspace that she was doing this with her son and not thinking about what you're doing, which is exactly what you want.
yeah.
And yeah, no, I thought it was great. I really did. I
Thank
liked
you.
it a lot. Yeah, very
Thanks.
effective.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm working on a couple more too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. And so of course I found you again because I saw you in the lunch meet. We probably should talk about that. So how did that come about? You getting featured in their newsletter?
So I've known Josh for a long time. We were when I was tape collecting. I haven't tape collected for such a long time. But we used to meet up together. Well, first I remember seeing the Just for Tracking documentary. And so we were just talking about our documentary, but like that was the documentary that got me into doing VHS collecting, which is maybe like 8 years ago. And I remember seeing Josh on there, but not really making anything of it. Like I knew from the video being kind of like a figure in the VHS collecting community. And I started collecting myself and meeting people who were other collectors. And eventually I went to this this guy's house in Philadelphia, and he was having like a meetup for other VHS collectors, and Josh happened to be there with like guys like John Dickey and Hayden Hall, which is another really big name in the Philly area, filmmaker, VHS collector, artist. But yeah, we've known each other for a really long time ever since then. And Ted Gilbert too is another guy. He's they're both like just super supportive guys of what I've done. And they host VHS Fest every year. Josh and I think it's Ross Snyder from Saturn's Core. They host it every year. It's like a VHS. It's a VHS screening on like in a drive-in. So they take like VHS movies, like ones that are MIA on a DVD and all that, and they'll show it on the big screen, and it's awesome. And yeah, so I've gained a relationship with Josh and them for a long time, and I think Ted one day he wrote to me, he goes, "We want to feature you in the newsletter. Is that cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can we talk about, mention your doc stuff you're doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." But Yeah, that newsletter is great. I was
Yeah.
really excited about that.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Cool as hell.
Yeah, and like I said, is the reason why I don't. I mean, a lot of times you read it, you're like, oh, that's cool, but for some reason, I don't know what it was. It's something that maybe it said something about the music and the type of music you did. I was like, oh, yeah, I like to check this stuff out, and I did, and I'm very happy I did because right off the bat, so I listened to the Force to Fear soundtrack. That was great.
Thank you.
And the Bathtub Shark Attack. I listened to some of that. The what was the one about is it garbage or trash removal?
Oh, trash removal.
Yes, actually, I love that one. I listened to that. So I threw up here on the bottom of the scroll. It says Spider Baby or the Maddest Story Ever Told. I haven't heard any music you've done for that yet, but I know of Spider Baby, the original with Sid Haig. And I guess the first question is, I had no idea that it was being remade. So
I don't know if a lot of people did.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, a guy named Dustin Ferguson.
Yes.
Yeah, he did the remake. A couple people from the original had some involvement. I know the main director of the original was
Jack. Was it Jack Hill? Was that the guy?
Yeah. That was a fun movie to score. I really had a good time with that. But I've never seen the original. I've never watched it, so I just scored it from kind of like the kind of impression I got from like the images and what it felt to me. Yeah,
that's cool. The original movie, I haven't seen it in years and years and years, but it's wacky. Wonderfully wacky, but it's definitely wacky. Yeah, it's great.
Sid Haig and
yeah, man.
Yeah. I still have to watch it. I really do. I'm terrible.
No, totally. I also, so I really wanted to get to was how did you get into composing movie scores? How did that come about?
Oh man. I was told when I was doing Lapsus at a show, this dude told me that some of the stuff I was doing sounded very cinematic, and I don't know, I just kind of like felt that was interesting. And at that time I was really getting into horror films, and I never really thought about composing music. There was a movie that I started watching. There's a movie from a filmmaker named Tim Ritter. It's called Killing Spree.
I would, with Asbestos Felt, Joel Wynkoop. Yeah, I know Joel Wynkoop because he lives in the Tampa Bay area.
Awesome.
And he's been on the show a couple of times. He's a great guy, and very familiar with that movie.
Great. Yeah. No, but Asbestos just passed away too. From what I heard. Yeah, man. I met him at VHS Fest a couple years ago. What an awesome dude. But yeah, I remember watching that film years ago, and this was like maybe 2016, 17. And no offense to the score, I felt like a lot of it was taken from John Harrison's score for Creepshow. That was the segment Something That Tied You Over. And there's just something very simplistic and kind of like lo-fi analog. And I mean, he did it all in like an Oberheim synthesizer. I think it was either an Oberheim or a Prophet. They're these huge. They're like not gigantic synthesizers, but a lot of horror composers used them, like Alan Holworth, John Carpenter. They were just really. They spoke of the time of horror films. Like if you listen to a horror film back in the 80s, early 80s, like Richard Einhorn did. I think he did that with maybe Blood Rage. I'm not sure, but like that was the kind of sound they used. I'm like, I know that sound. I'm pretty sure I could imitate that somehow. And I think it was that word about imitating or saying, I think I could do that. Like, and try and imitate that. Then I just started kind of playing around, and I started getting like kind of interested in like maybe just doing some mock scores, like I didn't think it was anything that major. Like maybe I'll make a couple little demos and send to Tim Ritter, and nothing. We gained a friendship from that, me and Tim, but nothing really majorly happened from there. But I just started sending stuff to people, and eventually I got like a college. My first score was this kid in film school making these like almost like Miami Vice kind of shorts, and I got to do a lot of my synthwave lapses stuff with them, and that was kind of like my first like experience doing a film score. And yeah, nothing really major was coming out of that, but it was like it got me interested to keep my head in the game a little bit and see what else that could happen. And eventually one day I got an email from Todd Sheets, of all people, and he asked me if I could do music for his movie Bonehill Road. And that was really probably the first major full-length film, but that was more like music department, where I would just make a song, he would take it and just put it to wherever he wanted to put it. And yeah, that was my first major score. That's kind of how it really started for me. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah.
yeah.
And so then from that point, are you like, is it just like through networking and connections? Like, was it like more of a referral situation? Like filmmakers are coming to you and said, "Hey, I heard your music on such and such. We'd love
Yeah,
for you to work on this."
I would say both. Yeah, yeah. It happened. Like I mean, I did a lot of like I'd make these fake demos that I would send out to people, and one of them happened to be Justin Burning. I'm sorry, I'm thinking another Justin. Justin Siemens
Mhm.
and Zane Hirschberger, who were behind the movie The Barn.
Mhm.
And I loved. I never saw the movie, but I remember seeing the trailer. I really loved what I saw, and I'm like, maybe these guys are making something else down the road. I'm going to market myself a little bit and send my demo to them. And I got a response back, and they're like, "We love your stuff. You know, we want to keep you in mind for another movie down the road." And that really gave me some faith. And eventually, I think I saw them doing a convention in New Jersey. It's called Monster Mania. So
Mhm.
I went down there and met them, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, we want you to score our next movie. We're working on an anthology called 1031." And yeah, so that's kind of just like, how I kind of work with people. It's like, if somebody gives my name to somebody else, they'll contact me. But I've gotten a lot of both. Like I mean, I've done a lot of footwork where I'm not just sitting around waiting. Like if I'm
Mhm.
not doing a score, or if I need to do something, I'm usually writing to a director. Majority, that's how I got most of my work, especially with like Spirit Animal with Maddie Deering and Dustin Ferguson, and yeah, a lot of other filmmakers. But yeah, I've gotten people who write to me out of nowhere and just ask me to do a score. That's always flattering. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
So for you, how long have you been a musician? Like where did that start for you?
since I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, playing guitar.
So only 10 years ago then.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like it, man.
Yeah. 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 Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I learned playing guitar. I was in bands in high school, after high school, and eventually I just went solo. I got a little exhausted of just kind of being in bands, and I just wanted to try stuff myself. And I did a lot of just like I did like an acoustic stuff, playing open mics, and eventually I picked up keyboards and started doing stuff with that. And yeah, it just kind of evolved into what it is today. Yeah.
So you're self-taught.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had maybe like one lesson, and at that time it was pretty expensive for guitar lessons, and I don't think my parents wanted to pay it anymore. So
Mhm.
I just got guitar lessons myself. I got Brian May's guitar teaching book, and I would just read that and learn how to read tablature. But I really don't even know how to read notes or anything like that. I'm very super self-taught.
Yeah. Yeah, I always have a very deep appreciation for anybody, but obviously artists this is applicable to that, where you're not going to take the fact that, you don't have the opportunities to like you said, get lessons or get any kind of special tutelage, but you have this drive in you that compels you
Yeah.
to, get the books, get the whatever, and just put in the work. And then over time, it builds and builds and builds. And then before you know it, you're composing movies.
That's all you need to do, folks.
That's it, kids. Just there it is. So simple.
Music. Making music for every movie you want to make.
That's right. Totally. Super easy.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I love doing it. It's a lot of hard work. I appreciate every director that's hired me and wanted to work with me. And and especially right now with everything going on, the patience all my clients have, it means a lot. Yeah. I'm grateful for it. Really am.
That's cool. That's really cool. So when you made a comment, I obviously don't want to talk about your personal situation with what happened to your VHS collection, unless you want to share that. But yeah, so you were a guy who had a decent collection, and then nature, she's a real mother, and decided to.
Oh, I mean, yeah, like it's kind of. It wasn't just the weather. Like I had a really bad flood in my basement that I had to move a lot of my tapes off the ground, and some of them were damaged. But it's really honestly not this. The whole story is that I just I needed the money and sold them. That was really it was I had a lot of really good rare ones too, man. Like, oh my god. Like I can't even speak of the ones I sold right now, but I had maybe like 30 or 50 tapes left.
Yeah.
That are like my I call them my grave tapes. Like I'm gonna be buried with those tapes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I mean, it's not cool that you had to sell them off, but it's cool that you have that kind of core group of tapes that you but I get that. Yeah, when we had our first son, right before we had our first son, let's just say we were doing a lot of eBaying, and it was not us buying stuff. It was quite the opposite. So right. I can relate.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, and especially when like you get what's that called, a seller's remorse.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot of it. I've done it with synthesizers too. Like I really don't like everything I do. In fact, the newsletter, the picture of me is very close to how I actually compose music on the couch in my underwear. Usually not asleep, but
yeah.
I thought it was funny to do that.
Yeah. So what is that process like? What do you use, or what do you? By the way, I know next to nothing, so you could just make up a bunch of words, and I'll just nod like an idiot. So,
no, I'll be honest with you. My setup is pretty ridiculously simple. It used to be. I used to have a lot of synthesizers, and like I just said, I sold most of them, but I rarely used them like I wanted to. There was a movie I did called Night of the Axe where I used a Yamaha DX7 throughout the entire score. And that's like, man, that thing is on every movie from like Ghostbusters to Chopping Mall. Mm-hmm. Like you can hear that sound. And I really want one again. Like, to be honest, I'm definitely grabbing one, but at some point down the road. But mostly what I do is plug-in based. I have software on my computer that I'll just queue up, and I'll find software emulations of like I was saying, like an Oberheim or a Prophet or a Roland Juno. And most of the stuff I grab and use are like 80s, 90s emulations of these classic synthesizers. And I'll take the movie, throw it into Logic Pro, and usually like how I'll do it in the beginning is I'll watch the movie once or twice, kind of get a feel for it, and I'll riff a lot of the times, and I'll just kind of talk to the director, see what they want, kind of versus what I want. And it's a lot of times too, it's I don't want to down anybody's movie that I worked on. Like if there's a film that I'm not really getting the feel for, or something that's just not peeking out to me, like during the process of trying to come up with something, I'll listen to other music, another score from some other film to kind of maybe see if that'll ignite. And that usually is the best way that gets me moving, is finding inspiration for something. But it's a combination of communication with the director, and mostly just whatever kind of like whatever jumps out to me in the movie that gets me started. Yeah, it could be the beginning, middle, or end of it, but you have to find what really excites you about the process, and then move into that instead of just sitting with a blank page, because that makes everyone afraid to work, not knowing what to do. But the best option that I have, or at least what works for me, is listening to other scores, or kind of just walking around thinking about the movie, and then coming back and sitting down working, and kind of just building like a theme, and then kind of branching off of that theme, and minimizing the process as much as I can, especially try not to complicate it, like by putting too many instruments in the software, which a lot of people like to do that. I love having a lot of stuff to look at in the software, like drums, synthesizer, bass, pad, samples, but it's usually, I like limiting myself. Like I'll try to sometimes use one synthesizer, and just build off of like patches I make from that, or patches that the synthesizer plugin has on it. And a plugin is basically like, like a software emulator of like different kind of keyboards that you would have like a hardware. Instead, this time, instead of having an actual keyboard with you, it's in your computer, and I have a little MIDI keyboard that I usually use in front of me to do all that stuff. So yeah, that's usually how I do it. It's just kind of, pretty relaxed on my laptop. I know I used to have a big studio, and much like your situation, when you had a child, things kind of had to alternate a little bit. So I minimized everything I had. I moved everything out of the room where I usually do my composing, and I just do it on my laptop. I take it with me anywhere. When I'm on my lunch break at work, I'll sit in my truck and work on stuff. So anywhere I can get the time to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. And so that process of working with these various indie filmmakers, you being a filmmaker yourself too, what is that process like? I imagine it's probably different with each project you do, but what is that project like, the process like, at least far as like when you get started? Is it more or less like, do filmmakers say to you, hey man, this is the tone we're looking for, this is what we want, blah blah blah, and then go for it, we trust you? Or is it like you get more of a micromanaging, like, on this right here we want a cue where blah blah, how detailed does it get?
Yeah, it varies. Some directors are really cool, and they just kind of trust my intuition on it, and they just let me kind of mess around. Guys like Zane Hirschberger, who directed Force of Fear with Chad Bruins, he was the first person that I got notes from, and that was like a really rude awakening. I'm like, I gave him my score, or at least a part of it. And I'm like, this is. I'm like, here you go, dude. Have fun with it. And he goes, well, maybe you could do this here and there. And that was like the first time I got notes from someone thinking, man, this sucks. I got to go back and fuck with it again. Like, but it's a great learning process. But like, yeah, like you're gonna get people who, especially in the beginning when you're just starting out doing this, like, you're gonna get different directors that have different kind of expectations. Like some want you to listen to temp tracks. And like I said, some just trust your style and your intuition about, what you want to bring to the film. And some other people really have a detailed idea of what they want. And it's always a mixed bag. Like I said, with Forced to Fear, I got so many notes at the end of doing that movie. And sometimes it's never at the beginning. It can be at the end of the movie, and you have to redo things. And it's a lot like it's like kind of like when they say like you're writing a screenplay or you're writing a novel, it's, you always go through a draft or two, and that it seems kind of more like what I do. Instead of just writing a whole new score, I'll either subtract things, add things, and it's just kind of building, subtracting. But yeah, everybody's different, really. Yeah, but I've had it all, man.
Yeah.
I've had people who hated what I did at one
Really?
point, who did not like it, yeah, and just had to redo things, and that sucks. But it's just the name. It's all the name of the game, man. Like, yeah, nature of the beast.
Yeah. So for yourself as a filmmaker, do you consider yourself more like a doc filmmaker, or is it like just anything, narrative, documentary, doesn't matter?
I made 2 short films before the documentary that were horror films. One was called Hexercise, and the other one was called Open House. And um, I really I think right now, like back then, I really loved doing horror films, and I still want to eventually do another one. But I've gotten so interested in doing documentary work, and tie-dye is only the tip of the iceberg. It's the first of what I'm hoping to be many little docs, or a few more other docs to kind of fuel a bigger doc that I've been working on for almost a year now. And that's kind of the reason why I started doing doc stuff. It was just this one project, and then it just kind of like I wanted to keep doing other little projects to kind of keep myself going throughout the process. So I don't know, like, yeah, I think documentary filmmaking is probably where my head is at right now, especially after doing tie-dye. I felt really good about the end result.
But
Yeah.
but you also could continue doing composition work as well?
Yeah. I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of just, I got clients who are paying me here and there, and I got to put priority, and sometimes my priorities get wacky. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been an interesting year and a half. It really has, because so many things have changed, and I've just been so excited about both prospects with scoring and doc work. But yeah, honestly, it's just trying to make everything work all at once. But yeah.
Cool. Well, so what projects do you have? Well, you said you work on this doc that obviously I'm assuming keep on the hush hush, but
Yeah.
are there other like projects that you can talk about that you're currently working on, maybe for other people or yourself?
Yeah. I'll go with some score stuff. So I'm working on finishing up a score for a movie called Dead of Night for Black Video. It was a public access TV show in Spokane, Washington in the 90s, and this VHS company called Black Video, ran by Shea Berman. I think I'm probably saying her last name wrong. She hired me, as the filmmakers did, to kind of score an episode that I think they were turning the episode into a movie, or compiling footage from the 90s to make a film. And yeah, I'm at the end of that right now, and then I'm doing another one. I'm doing a short film called Cagney for my friend Dave Bockheimer, and that one is about a guy who kidnaps people, and he wears like a giant bird mask and kidnaps people, and tars and feathers them in this like torture dungeon basement that's in the basement of an Airbnb, or something like that. It's like I feel like I'm butchering the whole
No,
film.
so it's like stage. You remember the movie Stage Fright, the slasher where we had the big owl head? Like,
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, okay. I feel you.
I'll have
Okay.
to ask Dave if he was inspired by that. But yeah, it's like a girl. It's a girl who's house sitting, and she ends up finding that there's something really wrong with the home that she's house sitting.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. But yeah, it's a short film, and yeah, I've just kind of sort of started working on that one right now, and yeah, as far as scores, that's all. I have a movie coming out next week called The New Blood that I scored for a filmmaker named Adam Morgan. That's like a trilogy of these other films that he's done. They're all up on YouTube, but it's called The New Blood. Comes out next week. And yeah, that's all for scores. And then I'm going through the editing process of another one called I'm doing the editing process for a documentary that I shot over the spring and summer called Eye Candy, and that one is just going to be, it's going to be a lot different than what you saw with Tie Dye. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will it make me get teary-eyed
Ah,
for
I
different reasons?
I don't know. I'm actually, it may make some people mad.
Okay, well,
at
Matt's
the
good.
time.
Matt's good.
It's a not necessarily mad, but it's a very different. It's a bizarre story, but it goes into sort of like Grey Gardens territory.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
From what I'm putting on.
And this is one you're directing, or is it your composing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I directed it and shot it just like with Tie Dye. It was just all by myself. It's about a New Jersey ophthalmologist who, it's basically like an eye surgeon who has had this private practice where he has one of the most strangest doctor's offices in the country.
Cool.
So it's kind of about how he became who he is, and what made him be fascinated with this kind of duality of his work and his artistic interest. And that's
cool.
Yeah, it gets pretty out there.
Yeah, actually, I dig stuff like that. Do you ever watch that show Oddities?
Yeah. Yes.
I love that show. I watched it more than once for some. I love, because I love when they go to like people's homes and you get to see like a guy's like, by day he's an accountant.
Yeah. By night.
Yeah. He's got like torture devices all over his house. You're like, whoa.
I love that. Yeah, but that's such a cool thing. I think that whole like that personality of what makes this interesting is that like with that, what you're saying is like somebody who does something in the day and does something at night. This is a person who is just all at the same time. Like it's like in his profession, like people will walk into this office and the things that they see is literally like just eye candy. It's like mind blowing. But
cool.
So I'm excited for that. But it's, as far as the story wise, it's going to be a little bit more different than what you saw with Tie Dye.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you being here. So do you want to let everybody know where they can find you and your work online?
Yeah, you can find my stuff at lapsus666.bandcamp.com, or you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is MattLapsusCanon.
Excellent. Cool. And I will put all that in the description below. And we do something at the end of every video, and hilariously, it's not intentional. It feels like probably to people that it is. It's not. I always forget to tell the guest beforehand that I'm going to do this. But just basically the first thing that pops in your head, you could go with. Okay. So I'm going to say, at Mom and Pop's, our love of
cheese sandwiches
never stops.
Mom and Pops.